So I want to talk, and it's really important to WetheP, as you know. WetheP started with a initiative called Dynamic Shift that myself and other citizens started in this community. And this was around some tensions that were happening at the time at this Burnsville Performing Arts Center. It was already built. There was an event one evening to celebrate the Performing Arts Center. This was a year or two after it had been built and was already running. And there was a sense from some people that there should be no discussion about the differences in how different leaders and citizens viewed the Performing Arts Center. And my view was that was exactly the wrong thing to do. I thought we should be talking about these tensions and working through them the way that any good people in relationship would work through them. Have the hard discussions, work through them, and come together in ways that would make this asset that was already built somehow both meaningful and important to all citizens, but also productive for the city itself. That initiative then was about civil discourse, about how we have discussions across differences and across sometimes party lines and across angers and hurts and ideologies and agendas. And I think that we surprised a lot of people that we were even talking about this. The joke was whenever we'd bring it up to anyone, they would laugh at us because they thought, good luck getting civility when you have conflicting ideologies. Civility has been an ingredient, and it hasn't always been easy here, but yet it has been an ingredient to the success of this community. And when I say civility, it doesn't mean that everyone's running around happy, happy, happy all the time. It means that there is an intent to work through things in a dignified and civil way, even though there may be deep, deep differences. And I know when we started Dynamic Shift, and we talk to all kinds of different people in the community and all kinds of politicians, all kinds of citizens. We want to always touch all angles, and that's exactly what WetheP is interested in doing, but on a much broader level and nationally and someday internationally as well. So it's really important that all people are part of that discussion. But what I was really impressed with was at City Hall, at one point sometime after this, city council members that maybe didn't always agree on things began working together on projects, and I want to hear the story about how that happened, because I think I know that you'd always done that, and yet the timing was particularly poignant in that this was after some tensions, and so differences were forced to be overcome to get the work of the city done.
Actually, you know, you respect the difference of opinion, and you listen, and I listened, and we listened, the folks who were all, and you continue to work through all of the issues and get to where we needed to go. And that's what it is. It is about listening. It's about mutual respect. And at the end of the day, you might end up not agreeing, but then you sit down and you say, what is the greater good? And then that's what happened. At the end of the day, whether you agreed or disagreed, you were part of a group that made decisions. So even though it was a supermajority that said, yes, this is what we're going to do, and we knew how the financing was going to do. So what people don't understand at that time, but once they understood that we did a physical analysis, and it wasn't done inside City Hall, it was done by a private contractor, and not from this area. It was done with a group from
this is stuff
Chicago.
That the average citizen doesn't necessarily know unless they've been involved in that process.
Many
were, and sometimes even we have a short memory. So what ended up happening at this time during these tensions was a smaller minority of very concerned citizens. They were concerned. Their reasons for being concerned, I think, were largely realistic and understandable. Some may have been more ideological, and yet there was some of them were sincere. Without having the chance to continue to talk through those, things would have continued going south. And so the reaching out across party lines and talking to each other was able to dilute the force of the anxiety and the frustration and the worries, because as understanding emerged, people became less concerned.
And the other thing is that, remember, the Performing Arts Center was built and opened in the worst recession our country had ever experienced since the Depression. So, and then if you're a business person and you've done your business plan and you have your business plan reviewed from all different points.
And as a startup person,
And so
it takes time.
It takes time, and you know what you need to do. So we had good strategies in place. We had good financial planning in place. We knew where the sources would be. We knew how to cover the assets. So one of the things is that when people saw that, then they saw that it was a good business plan.
When you could explain.
But the other part is the emotional part.
Right.
Because remember, there is the factual and intellectual part of doing things, but there is the heart and the emotional part. So it is about addressing the heart and the emotional part. And that's the part that you can say, you know, I understand.
And this is part of your larger vision, is a caring community. And
absolutely.
It can sound sort of soft and idealistic.
It's harder.
But it's harder. And why is it harder?
Because you're taking the time to listen to people's emotional positions as well as their heart. You know, and so sometimes that's a lot harder. You have to be patient to listen through all of that, and it takes time, but that's okay.
But the outcome is, as I've observed it anyway, is processing through some of those difficulties in a caring and respectful way, even if sometimes things flare up a little bit. The outcome is a more cohesive partnership, even between people that continue to differ. They start working together better. I've seen this happen.
And also what people have seen, and I was surprised many times, people who were against, but then their daughters were in dance competition, or their daughter and son were in a Nutcracker, and then I would see them at the Performing Arts Center, and then they would come up to me and they say, "This is a gorgeous building. You know, I wasn't for it, but now I see the value." So
score one for slow thinking on that one.
Well,
for seeing the vision and holding the vision for the time it takes. We've got to close up.